And please give a warm welcome to Chief Inspector John Owen. Good morning, John.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody.
Just an opening question, just to help to set the scene. I'm aware your boss is here, and it's probably a question your staff ask as well. But what actually does a chief inspector do?
We work very, very hard, very, very hard. First of all, I'm always very nervous when Lloyd asks me to come to something like this. The last time he asked me to something was a pensioners' convention across the city, where I'd said to him, "Is there anything I need to prepare for, Lloyd?" And he said, No, just turn up, you'll be fine. And I remember sitting on stage, and I looked through the notes, and it said, John Owen, 30-minute presentation. And I've never, in all my life, panicked so much. I had to think so fast on my feet. So I've said to Lloyd this time, no low ballers, and no presentation, please. So what is it to be a chief inspector? Well, obviously there's varied roles being a chief inspector. My role is I'm one of the two chief inspectors here in the city. Might I say a city that I'm very proud to be a part of, a city that I grew up in, that I live in. And when you talk about dream jobs, this would be my dream job as a police officer, to be the commander of policing in a part of a city that I love and adore. So my role varies on a daily basis. We're such a diverse city, and various things are thrown at us on a day-to-day basis. But mainly, you're the figurehead for the area. You try and lead the area that you're responsibility for in the direction that the force needs to go. It's a position which can be challenging sometimes. We've got some fantastic councillors, but sometimes they're very challenging too. And we've got people, MPs and councillors and the local authority who care for the city. And it's a privilege for me to be a part of a great team who are trying to deliver great things. And my role is to keep people safe, and that's what I try and do, and that's what my team try and do on a daily basis.
Anyone who's been reading the media, listening to the media over the last year or so, will have come across a real issue with drug use, synthetic drug use. People may have heard about monkey dust and things like that. From a policing perspective, just how big an issue is the use or misuse of drugs in the area?
Can you remember the terms of reference about no low ballers, please? Yeah. Now, this is a challenging. It's challenging, but I suppose let me reiterate: this isn't a problem that's unique to our city. It's not a problem that's unique to Staffordshire, and it might seem strange for me to say this. This isn't just a sole police problem. This is a societal problem. This is a public health problem. This is something which we all need to come together to tackle, specifically in our city together. And that's what we're doing. There is numerous groups headed at exec levels all the way down to operational, where we're working together in partnership with the local authorities, with the third sector, to try and kind of eradicate this issue. Drugs are not a new issue, but they do cause us significant demands, significant issues, significant problems. And if we could eradicate drugs, and that's a massive question, I have no idea what the answer is, my role would be a lot easier. So it's very challenging.
And we'll pray about that shortly. Again, going on to something that was very sad for us in the last year, many will be aware of the tragic drowning at Westport Lake. It was well covered in our local media as well as national media. And obviously you were very much the public face for Staffordshire Police. Just give us an idea how challenging a situation that was for you and for your colleagues.
Yeah, I'll be honest, it's still a challenging one. I'm a father of 3 children, and being a police officer doesn't mean that we're immune from pain or hurt. And that was a situation where, as a police service, as a partnership, as the press, we couldn't make things better, but collectively we could make things a whole lot worse. It was heart-wrenching on a daily basis to see a man who loved his child looking into a very serene, calm Westport Lake and knowing that in essence there was no hope. For us as an organisation, it was a surreal time because we all care. We care massively, and we care massively for that family. But it was a time where, in all my life, I've never seen the city come together in unity. It was a time where the police were really looked after by a community, where people came, children came and delivered ice lollies. In fact, in Westport Lake, and I kid you not, food piles and drinks were stocked high to the point where we had to give near enough lorry loads away to the local charities afterwards. It was a time where we found it really hard. Speaking from personal experience, it was probably the hardest incident that I've dealt with, and I've been involved in some pretty horrific incidents because it felt so close to home. It felt something that we couldn't make right. And I remember it was extremely challenging. There was national press interest, and I think it's important to note, obviously with the local press, it's something where they could have turned it into a situation where increased the pressure on us, when actually we were all united as a city and behind Ryan and Ryan's family. But ultimately, when that situation ended, and I remember it was about 10 p.m, we'd recovered Ryan, and I remember I got in my car and I probably sobbed for hours and hours. I just couldn't stop myself. And that's an insight into policing, because we're not immune from pain, we're not immune from hurt. We care. I lead a team within Staffordshire who are vocational. They care about our city. And sometimes I think, it's my job to try and say to you, we've got a fantastic police service here. We care about the people. We want to be involved in the community. And sometimes we're seeing things on a daily basis which challenge us. They challenge us deeply, and they impact us heavily. And that was something, out of all the incidents I've ever dealt with within policing, which probably impacted me the most. And, I see Ryan's family now. And thankfully, there's a legacy that's come from that with regards to the work that's gone on with the local authority and the local press, with the swimming lessons, and what we're trying to do to remember Ryan, because I don't think Ryan will ever be forgotten in our city. A wonderful family, he appeared a wonderful boy, and something which I probably personally will remember for a lifetime.
And I think on our behalf, for those of us who saw you taking a lead every day, we want to say thank you. We really do. Thank you. As you mentioned, you're a local lad, not so much of a lad anymore, local lad. You support one football team. You've been a ball boy for another football team.
I'm just going to clarify that once. My claim to fame, if I can quickly, I was once a ball boy for Port Vale at Wembley. And the day before I'd played football and I cricked my neck and I couldn't move. So I was there in front of, I'm not going to lie, it wasn't a packed Wembley, but I had one touch of the ball and I picked the ball up and with a crook neck, I threw it, hit the billboard, bounced back, and the whole crowd went, "Way!" So I sat there as a young boy, because I was 6'1" at the time, in a tracksuit up to my knees, hating the whole experience. But well done, Carol, anyway, well done.
So someone who's local, but you're also a Christian. Same question that I asked the Lord Mayor. In what ways is your faith important in your work, John?
That's a big question, and I think Freeman of the City Nello hit it on the head. And this is my views, and this is the joy of our city, because we've all got different views, we've all got different opinions, and actually sometimes we live in a world where we're kind of directed in a certain route, and that should never be the case, because actually what we should all do is love, respect and value difference of opinion, because that's what the world is about. But very similar to Nello, for me, Nello said, without Jesus we have nothing. And that's my view too. My faith is of paramount importance to me. And there are parallels, and bear with me with this, there are parallels, I think, with policing and the Christian faith. And, very much policing and the Christian faith, it's not a position of elevation, it's a position of servanthood. And that's very much what the Christian faith is. We are broken people. We go to a church that should be like a hospital. We don't think we're better than people. I actually we think we're a people that are in need of saving. And very much with regards to policing, again, it's a position of servanthood where we draw close to people in need, and we try and help people. We don't see ourselves in a position of authority. We see, and I keep reiterating it because it's so important, faith is a position of servanthood. We're not judges. We're not here to judge people's views. We're here to love people, to care people, to draw alongside people. And that's something which I like to try and emphasise things about policing, and very much my message is around policing, that we're human, that we care, that we're servants, that we're not a position of authority, and we want to be positions within the community, and very much of the Christian faith. I think sometimes nationally it's perceived of the Christian faith that we're up there looking down. Well, actually, we're in need of that Saviour, and we're saved through grace alone. Nothing by good works, nothing by good deeds, but actually by the grace and the sacrifice. And that's what my faith means to me.
And finally, we're going to pray. When it comes to policing, what sort of things would you want us this morning to be praying for you, for your colleagues, for the communities in this area?
Very much. I pray for our police service on a daily basis, and I'd encourage you to as well. We're in challenging times, we're in austere times, cuts impact us. The service sometimes we want to offer, it's not because we don't deliver it because we don't want to, it's actually sometimes because there's not as many of us anymore. Crime, it's not decreasing on a year-to-year basis. Times have become challenging for us. But what I see around me in the policemen and women and police staff that I lead are vocational people who care deeply about the communities of Stoke-on-Trent and wider within Staffordshire. So I'd ask that you pray for them on a regular basis. I would want, and I would pray for as well, that the police become more part of the community, because that's what we are. We are a small part in the community who play a key role. And it makes me think, when I actually walked up in that last conference where you kind of gave me that 30-minute presentation, I remember I walked through up to the conference and I passed 5 people as I walked, and I said hello to every single one of those people, and not one of them said hello back to me. And I remember thinking, it's a lonely place as a police officer, and sometimes it is. We're here to help. We're here without using cliches. We're here to serve, and we want the best for the people of our city. So I would encourage you and ask that we pray for our police, who do a very challenging, difficult role, and often put in positions where we can't often win. We're often in a lose-lose situation. That's a difficult place to be in sometimes.